I said I was going to speak about the schizoid condition. And I've got to be honest, I had in my head I was going to do this whole presentation and break down everything down in minute detail, but I've gone loopy, like it was doing my head in. So I'm going to do the complete opposite and break it down in the smallest nutshell I can think of. If I was to say in two sentences, a schizoid can be defined A by a an aversion to relationships, namely close relationships, and B, living in one's head rather than in reality. Some writings make it seem like schizoids are just missing that part of the brain that seeks connection. Like they're just robots. They don't have feelings. That's not the case. Where do these things come from? While it may be easier to spot later that someone's developing a schizoid personality, it actually starts at our first stage of development, which is also known as trust versus mistrust. That's the first crossroads we find ourselves at in life. Can I trust my caregivers and by extension the world around me? Can I trust and have that basic faith in the fact that my needs can be met in my environment? In the case of the schizoid, the answer is no. The schizoid is not the only person that comes to that conclusion. There's other personality types that develop as a result as of that basic breakdown in trust, such as the antisocial personality type. In their case, they learn my needs can't be met, so I can only rely on me, meaning I can only get my needs met by being exploitative or manipulative. When we come to the schizoid, it's a bit different. I can't get my needs met, therefore, I withdraw into myself. I get my needs met in fantasy rather than reality. Up here is where I make sense of reality. Up here is where I live. I don't exist out there. And when you think of it in that way, it makes sense of other things that are said of schizoids, i.e., struggling socially. Where do they get that practice from? If they're all up here and they can't exist in the real world and interact with people, where do they get that practice from? And not being interested in developing those relationships. Why would they be? Their breakdown in trust happens so early on. It's not even they don't even consider it. It's not even a thought. Like, oh, I'm afraid I might not get my needs met. I don't even consider that. It's a feeling, if you will. It's not even a it may not even be a longing as such. And that's not to say schizoids don't get lonely, because they do. Um, Man, there's so much to be said. And maybe other schizoids can speak about this, and I'm definitely going to speak about it in a further video. But I know for myself, I found it difficult to play. Um, and it's something that I'm developing now a lot more. But even when you think of something else that's said of schizoids, rigid thinking. If you can't play, you're going to be a rigid thinker. Like these things are happening developmentally. It's not something inherently wrong with you. You were born with something missing. And as with all personality types, there's a best potential and a worst potential. So you can do great as a schizoid. Just as much as you can have schizoid personality disorder, there's a best for you as well. Some common words that might come with the schizoid experience that certainly came with mine are words like aloofness, coldness, flatness, emptiness. Emptiness is a big one. A fear of being seen and existing, not desiring to be seen or exist. Man, being emotionally cold. Like, remember I said we would withdraw inwards, also meaning that because we learn that we can't get our needs met by others or by the world, I can only do things for myself. That also means I become emotionally self-reliant. So from the outside looking in, that looks like emotionally unavailable. There's so much that I want to talk about with the schizoid experience, but what I'm going to do is give a little bit here, share my experience. If I found a way of managing or a solution, then I'll share that. And I'll do that for like bits piece by piece. What do you mean? But in the meantime, here's two channels that have helped me so much on my journey. One is Taryana Rocha, and the other one is by a person called Joanna and or Joanna, um, and her channel's called Mind Mastery, I believe. I will spell the names and everything correctly in the description, but do check them out because they've got such clear, concise ways of explaining things. They share their personal experiences and testimonies, and they share practical solutions, which I think is just fantastic, like so amazing. Um, and they also give further sources for reading. Also, if you're interested in looking at schizoid personality disorder, there's something to be said about how it's worded in the DSM. But if you want to look up the DSM, go ahead. And I'll see you in later videos.